My name is Paul Coseo. I originally from Michigan. I've been in Arizona about 9 years now. Yeah, I got my undergraduate in meteorology, and then I went on to get my graduate degree in landscape architecture. And so I work with cities a lot to reduce heat in neighborhoods.
What key life experiences have formed who you are today?
I grew up in a very privileged, wealthy, white, predominantly suburb outside of Detroit, but was always keenly aware of the discrimination and segregation that was happening. I feel like it was almost every night in the news. You'd see things that would reinforce that. So in the work that I do here in Phoenix, really is around thinking about who suffers the most from heat. And the big thing is that structural racism really creates many of the vulnerabilities for people, and designers really have, I think, an obligation to tackle that head on, to help and be both an ally and accomplice within the work.
My second question, which was, how did you become passionate involved specifically in Arizona?
And so I honestly got the job at Arizona State because they do a lot of, obviously it's hot, and they do a lot of heat research here as well. And so it was a really like attractive place to come and work and learn, because the challenge of heat is so just chronic and all the time, right? In other places like Michigan or Chicago, right, it's, you have heat waves, but you also have really cold winters. So the heat is a problem, but not the same scale as here. And so there's just a lot of opportunity to really be on sort of the front, the leading edge of research and innovative sort of design related to creating better, more just design outcomes for people.
So it also touched upon what I would say would be part of your core values. So understanding human situations and how that interacts with cities, and how, as you said, designers have a responsibility to reflect that in a positive manner. How would you say you've really incorporated that and reflected it into your work?
Yeah, so I would say another core value related to that, including justice and equity. There's the kind of key issue of how much you can actually do. And I will say that as someone that's white, that's trying to do this work, and male, trying to do this work, certainly the humility that you have to kind of always remind yourself of, and that you shouldn't speak for other people, and that you should hold space for people that are from underrepresented groups.
So then, kind of going off of that, what would you say makes the city of Tempe such a great city?
This region in particular, for me at least, the uniqueness of the Sonoran Desert, the uniqueness of our sunlight, and of the communities that call this place home. For me, the richness of our indigenous neighbors, who are really the original designers here.
So then, if you are currently involved in any, what causes, projects, or activities are you currently involved in, and kind of like why are you involved in those? Are core values reflected, or is there a certain movement towards why you're doing them?
Yeah, one of the projects that's working with the city of Tempe on their climate action planning process. We work very closely trying to understand how they adapt the city in terms of new design. And I would say that it reflects my core values in terms of the way in which we work is really to prioritize communities in conversation, in representation. It's also always listening out for when communities know best.
So you've brought up, partnering with the city of Tempe. You've also brought up, making sure you listen to communities. But what are some other groups or individuals you'd say you've collaborated with that help you realize how impactful your work is?
So there is some work that we have done over the past couple of years in Honolulu with a couple of different nonprofits. They were so skilled and more advanced, thinking about how we should be thinking about working with communities.
What other creators of similar projects, causes, activities have kind of influenced you?
Yeah, I was really heavily influenced by Larissa Larson, who was my advisor for my master's in landscape architecture final project. She was very good at saying why you would do something the way she was doing it, and explaining sort of how the world worked, and when sometimes it doesn't make sense. And so I try to take that in and do that for my students and for people that I work with, because I just saw the value of a sort of a deeper explanation of the way that the world works, and then also how to navigate it. Because sometimes as a person or community, you might not be able to change that thing. You can still understand it better so you can work within it to make it work for what you want to do.
So kind of to wrap everything up, as an educator and a former student, what would you recommend that I can do to become a future creator of a great city?
And I really felt the benefit of this is basically showing up. Go up to things where you want to kind of grow your path. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. It's just showing up. It's about just putting yourself out there, understanding kind of the opportunities that might happen because you're in the room.
Yeah.
So